Oh, there we go. Oh, man.
Well, that's a good one.
Come on, baby. If I can just... This thing's not going to last in Florida right now.
Oh no, the wind just took that down.
Hey, it's Jerry Norton here. I'm with Zach, and we are talking about all things real estate. We're going to deep dive into some of the biggest issues in the market and probably on your mind right now, and really dissect how to do this at a high level. We're going to bring Zach's 22 years and my 20 years, 42 years of combined full-time
experience.
Full-time real estate here on this conversation. You don't want to miss the round table coming up. Thank you for having me. And this is a square table.
It's so funny. Last time we say round, I say round square table. We said the same thing with Pace. Welcome to the square table.
It doesn't sound right.
He's already correcting me.
Yeah.
Welcome to the square table today with Jerry Norton, the legend.
Thanks for having me. It's fun to hang out with you.
Always good to be with you.
All right, so let's go ahead and do the first piece. Go for it, Zach.
Oh, move the Jenga, right? Is that the first part of the show?
Yes, sir.
Let's get into it. Yeah. Get a little crazy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so the first question, delegating tasks. If you want to go fast, do it alone. But if you want to go far, do it with people. A lot of people believe you have to hire and outsource to grow your business. What do you guys have to say?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I think in a real estate business, you can go solo for a little while and you can have no team, not a lot of resources, and you can get by. And I think in real estate, you can replace a job fairly easily, fairly quickly. Like if I take wholesale real estate, for example, my experience is that 80% of wholesalers are that solo operator, husband, wife, or maybe a partner, a little bit of resources, maybe a little bit of part-time help or whatever. But for the most part, it's a one-person show. And in wholesale real estate, you can do 3 to 5 deals a month. You can be pulling in $250,000 a year, and that's it. It's just you and some hustle, which is amazing because you can get out of a crappy job and get into some higher income. The problem, though, is if you stay there forever, you're just gonna have a high-paying job. You know, like why work for someone else 8 hours when you can work for yourself 12 hours, right? So that's a lot of solo operators. But if you want to actually be in the owner's box and be a real business where you step out of the day-to-day operations and you can go on vacation and money still comes in and you can have the lifestyle and the things, there's no way around it. You have to learn how to develop people and you have to implement systems, have processes, technology, people, and that's really the only way that you're going to eventually get out of the trenches, in my opinion.
Fair enough. I've been a solopreneur my whole way from start to finish for the most part. I always find that if there's partnerships, and I've tried, on a few opportunities in homes, that, I would love to clone myself, but that's not possible. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm just so type A that if I'm going to delegate to someone, I'm so worried about that task. And that's my own fault, right? I own that's an inefficiency in my own business. I've never been a great delegator. The best thing I ever did to help grow and scale is delegate the accounting and the tax portion of my whole business, because I don't want to be in the numbers. I want to be in the relationships and building and growing. So I do believe it's very important if you have the ability to delegate, but not join a partnership per se to dilute equity. I'm always about a solopreneur, so I'm controlling the assets, making all the major decisions. If you have a co-investor, if you will, maybe in a passive standpoint where we're still the full operators making the management decisions, that's one thing. So contrary to popular belief for me, I'm a singles player versus a doubles player. I want all the glory and all the loss. I'll take it all on myself.
Well, when I say that, Zach, what I mean, I don't mean a partner. But I mean a team as in you've got team.
Absolutely.
You've definitely got team, even if they're 1099.
For sure. Absolutely.
I can't imagine how many contractors you work with. And,
great clarification.
And support. I just mean, in wholesale, I mean, you're everything. You're wearing all the hats.
Yep.
Your sales, your acquisitions, your disposition, your everything. And it's just you, and you don't really have any support. I think in a wholesale real estate business, you can just hustle and do okay there.
Right.
But like you own tons of rental properties, so you have property management, you have contractors, I'm imagining. Maybe you're the guy, but I still imagine you have team.
1,000%, of course. That's a great clarification. So in wholesale too, there's so many, in my opinion, I think there's a lot less moving parts. You're not worrying about the construction. You're not worrying about all the, the accounting. It's how much are the assignment fees? Put it in a column on a spreadsheet.
It's a P&L. I mean, it's cut and dry, where you've got a lot of moving parts.
You've done it all, so you get it. So very good point, depending on what you're looking to grow. And they say, hey, you want to make $1 billion, you need all these people. You do need a team. You need to delegate. You need the resources.
And I think if I were to pop the hood on your business, I think what I would see is you've been developing into a leader for a long time now, for years, because the thing is you can't attract A talent into your organization if you're not an A leader, right? You only can attract talent equal to your level of leadership. And that's John Maxwell law of the lid, right? So if you want to attract better skilled people into your organization, whether it's direct employees, depending on what you're doing, or like maybe what you're doing where it's a lot of contract labor, the way that you attract that talent is by you being the leader that will be able to support that, because A-level talent's gonna go somewhere else if they don't think you're an A-level leader. They want to hitch to a train that's going somewhere.
Yeah. My question for you, in regards to what you just said, and I agree, is how do you retain the talent on your teams? What is your ability for the retention? Do you give up equity in your stuff? Is it just a monetary increase pay? What have you done for retention?
I'm a big believer in some sort of earned compensation in the form of production or commission, because I think if I have someone and they say, I'd rather do hourly than any type of production based, they're not the right guy, because someone who's really good at what they do, they will want production.
Of course.
They'll want a commission-based structure because they know that they're so good at what they do, they can get compensated more for that. So I like that model. Like I try to look for that model. Now that doesn't always work. Like you're not going to have low-level activities and give them percentage or equity or whatever. Sure. But certainly with a lot of people that might be in your organization, ask yourself, is there a different compensation that would tie them to the outcome? And that's how you'll find that. Because a lot of people want to be an intrapreneur, where they can grow within an organization and they don't necessarily hold all the pressure and the liability, but yet they feel like there's no ceiling and they can keep growing. I have some people in my organizations that work that way and they love it.
Same. All my contractors work that way, so they are autonomous. Effectively, they're doing the projects. They're getting compensated upon production, right? So if you could finish this house in 2 days, you're going to make $50,000. But let's not forget something. The quality still has to be delivered. There's going to be,
trade-off
checks and balances.
We had one time where we were building and selling luxury here in Phoenix, and we had a full-time foreman, and it was like, $110,000 a year salary, truck, whatever, some benefits. And yet when he's doing a $5 million house, we would wait until we could define a finish date that was a stretch but reasonable, and then we'd go to him and we'd say, hey, if we can get done by this date and keep the budget, tie the two in quality, like those things have to match up, but if you can hit this deadline, then we'll give you a $10,000 bonus. Now we're making like $1 million on a deal. 10,000's nothing in the big scheme of things. To him,
it's huge.
It's huge.
Right.
That's a huge bonus. And so he's there every day. He's on the contractors. He's hustle, because he wants that bonus.
Of course.
And it's just enough to dangle where, things like that matter sometimes.
Absolutely. That's a great principle.
Jerry, your turn.
I liked this one here a minute ago. You were eyeing this one, weren't you?
Nah, I was focused on your good looks.
I put this on the top?
Wherever you like. Yeah, on top.
This one comes from wholesalers as legendary fix and flippers. Those are looking to invest into other investing avenues. What kind of advice would you give to wholesalers that are trying to break into other investment avenues?
Outside of real estate or just within the real estate? Okay.
Yes.
This is a great question, because for a lot of wholesalers, at least for years and years and years, wholesaling was like a stepping stone. It was like where people would get started because it's no money, I hustle, make some money. But it was like the idea was, once I grow up and become a real investor, I'll go flip or hold rentals or whatever. And in the last few years, that's transformed quite a bit. You now have these mega wholesalers with these giant, maybe not big teams, but giant operations doing, tons of transactions. So that's changed a little bit, but it seems to me like a lot of wholesalers start there, they get some experience, they transact a bit, and then they start to branch into other things. And I think that's very normal. I think that's very developmental. It's super healthy to do that, because you're going to gain a lot of fundamentals when you know how to find deals, find buyers. But I think if you really want to grow and you really want to build that wealth, I think you have to learn capital. You have to learn how to raise money. And the minute you start learning how to raise money, now the sky's the limit. The world is yours, because you can fund stuff and keep it. And when you can fund something and buy it and own it and then have options, there's no limit to what you can do.
Excellent. I concur with Jerry. Next question. No, I'm just kidding. Great advice. I would say this, at the end of the day, we're all playing the game of Monopoly with real money. And so once you start accruing, getting liquidity by the disposition and wholesaling these deals, which is critical, and you've proven that skill set, I think sedentary money doesn't make money, right? It's stagnant, nothing's happening. So how are you offsetting that with inflation? And you're not going to put it with taxes, and you're not at the 1% money market's not going to actually do anything for you. So can you now utilize that capital and maybe become a hard money lender to some of your people that you're wholesaling to, because everyone needs money? So put that money into the deal, say, I'm happy to fund 50% of this at 10%. Now you're making a significant return. And ideally, just sticking within real estate, utilizing that skill set to transition into the fix and flip and working. And I talked about this with Eric Klein today. As a wholesaler, I would say maybe take $5,000 off your assignment fee or $10,000 and take a vested interest in the deal that you're selling to slowly transition into the fix and flip or the buy and hold with an equitable interest. So every $5,000 or $10,000, you actually have skin in the game, an equitable interest in future transactions. And before you know it, you're going to own your own home free and clear with 10% here, 10% here, and 10 deals later, you now own with no risk a full single-family home with great upside potential with operators. And most importantly, you're cultivating the relationship with people that are really doing it so you can learn the operation from the inside out instead of just hypothesizing or subjecting hundreds of thousands of dollars and learning by mistakes. You're going to learn by somebody who's been doing this for a long time.
So, Zach, you do active income because you flip, and you do really well with passive income because you have hundreds of rental units. How do you balance between the two? Do you have a formula, or is it just per deal what makes sense? But how do you balance the active income, transacting deals, and flips are fairly quick, 6 months or whatever, but you also have a lot of hold properties that you hold long term for cash flow.
Sure.
How do you balance those two? Because you're one of the few people I know that do it well.
Okay.
And at a high level.
Yeah. When you say balance, are you just talking about like financially, or how do I decide which ones go into the long or flip, or what?
They're two different business models. Flipping and holding are it's a different hat altogether.
Yes, and they're very similar. They're a different hat, but it's just a matter of turning on the day. So, for example, I'm going to stabilize the asset no matter what. So I'm using the same. It's not like this one will be a flip. I'm going to get a contract over here. I'm utilizing all my same personnel.
But you're not putting in new cabinets on the rental necessarily.
Absolutely,
I
am.
So
I'm different in the sense that the beauty is it seems so different, but at the end of the day, the goal is really to retain the real estate, to stabilize it, put the money in, and whether I'm going to sell it. And a beautiful thing that I like in terms of strategy is when I go to sell an asset or I rent it, I tell the people, if I don't sell it to you, I'm happy to own it. I love this property. I've spent the same money. I'm happy to own this for 10 years because I believe in this asset. So therefore, I need this number. I love the dual exit strategy. I'll put it up for sell or for rent, because that's a great leverage position to say, well, if I don't rent it, I'm going to sell it. So I got people looking and say, can I get a discount on the rent? I said, I'll give you a discount, but I got somebody really itching to potentially buy this. I'm waiting for a contract. What a great leverage scenario.
But then how are you managing your finance structure? Because most flippers are using short-term hard money. That's not something you stay in long.
Right.
Are you structuring your capital in a way to where you could stay or could sell and it doesn't matter?
It's all the same. So the new assets that I'm acquiring is off of my lines of credit, my commercial line of credit. So it's the same debt structure. So there's no all of a sudden these was going to be a flip and I've got hard money on it. It's not. Those are effectively unencumbered regardless because I'm utilizing existing assets to stabilize those. Therefore, it makes my decision for the flip or the hold kind of very similar.
But that's unique because most people are hard money, private money on flips. It's expensive. You can't stay in that money long.
Correct.
Not only is it expensive, but the lenders don't want to be in it long. So you're on a short leash in that money. So you're forced to flip it even if you don't want to, unless you refinance. So then you have the hold people that are doing the DSCR loans and they're trying to create long-term financing to hold it. And what you tend to see is a polarized two very different business models. And you've just beautifully blended the two.
I mean, I think it's just taken a lot of time. So I think the question would be so different if we step back a decade or in fairness and full transparency, I didn't have that luxury 12 years ago. I also didn't have luck with a lot of a forced appreciation to give me that ability to make these decisions today. But again, I think it reverts back to playing the long game and watering, the seeds daily to put yourself in a position to give you that opportunity. No one sees the 20 years we've been grinding every day to get here. But if we went back a decade, you're right. The capital behind the deal would truly affect that business decision and also the attention and focus to move quickly. And part of that pressure is like, if you've got that hard money on a flip, It's like if someone gives you a good offer in the market, maybe you sense it's turning, you're quick for the dispo versus relaxing and saying, hey, I'm going to wait for this good offer because I'm feeling the pressure and the clock ticking in my ear every day of the interest rate ticking and the lender down my back. Zach, I'm not going to give you an extension or this and that. And it forces you to make poor decisions. So I'd really say to the audience, make sure that the capital you're getting, which is so important in all businesses, has that same component of longevity and duration that matches the time frame of the deal, so you're not forced to make a poor decision on the exit.
Yeah, that's why, like on my luxuries, I don't always do it this way, but I like an equity finance partner on the big deals because when you're juicing like a $25,000 a month payment on that big boy, dude, you're feeling that, you're rushed.
Yeah.
You start to drop the price quick, you know, because you feel so much urgency with that debt service. Whereas if you set the right expectations with an equity partner, then we tell them, hey, we're going to do it right. We're going to take our time. We're going to hold out for the number. You're going to be in this deal for X time frame, and you need to be okay with this because I cannot have you breathing down my neck.
Correct.
For this to work well. And so you can structure that financing according to what you're trying to do.
Yeah. It's mutually beneficial or in the same time horizon. You've set the same time frame expectation in advance, so you guys are always rowing in the same direction, not against each other. And going back to the original question about partnerships, that's why it's so key as a solopreneur is you're not having, look, like shit happens in life, right? Death, divorce, intervening variables, accidents, hardships, utility for different people. If you and I were partners on a rental property, and all of a sudden you're like, Zach, you know what? I have an emergency in Puerto Rico. I need my half out, and I don't want to sell. It's a problem. So part of sometimes being that solopreneur, it gives you the luxury of not worrying about intervening variables that don't, you know, that we can't control.
Yeah.
And that's why same thing if you're going to do a JV. I love the equity on the big stuff because it gives you that relaxation to maximize the value without the pressure.
And it's a deal by deal. So if you don't like that partnership, you don't like how they are, you finish the deal and you're done.
Right.
So it's a limited relationship, which is great.
We're just crushing you guys made this kind of easy with these middle ones in here. This is good. You set this up pretty good. These are good. Okay. All right.
Next question. Squatters are an issue. Not only do they squat in abandoned homes, but they're also going after rentals, especially in states like California. What is your advice to somebody who is dealing with squatters at this time and moment?
I mean, I think it's based on jurisdiction. I don't know I know California's really difficult. I know Florida just passed some laws that enables you to get them out way better, which is good.
Do you have that here with your properties much?
So I've had some situations, and I'm grateful that in Arizona, you call the police, there's no lease. It's not like, oh, let's go to court and evict them. If they're there illegally, I love the fact that they show up within minutes and they remove the squatters and they'll be arrested for trespassing. People are like, how come you don't show sympathy? I'm getting a lot of stuff. You know, no sympathy for these people. What are your thoughts? Listen, I believe everyone has hardships and whatnot. I don't need you arrested. Just don't come back. I don't need to press charges and this and that. But listen, you broke into my house. You know, you're urinating and defecating over the home. You're defacing my property. Just get out of the property and let's turn this as quick as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like there's a bigger problem at play here, and that's just this entitlement mentality in America that's pervasive, where people feel like they can get something for nothing.
Yeah.
And not, there's that, and then there's also this. It used to be that an entrepreneur or a business owner was revered, and now we're moving in this direction where you're now the bad guy. You're somehow because you make money in business that you're taking advantage of somebody. And so you'll have a court system that'll look at you as the bad guy and the tenant as the victim here, when in reality, you own the property. You took the risk.
No.
You're paying the property taxes, right? So I think there's a bigger problem at play here where we just need to start taking more accountability. People need to step up and take more ownership for their life and stop thinking that you're entitled to live in the house that you're not paying for.
Totally. I mean, it's like, and we'll get into some other topics later, but like I've had a lot of people, same thing, the entitlement. And the weird stuff that's transpired with some of my rentals and people moving in with these fake checks, and we can get in. It's crazy. And then I'm the bad guy because I'm a victim because you wrote me a fake check and all this fraud stuff. It's crazy. In addition, though, which is really weird, is I've been up in front of a lot. Early on, I went and handled my own evictions. So I'd show up to court. It's simple. It's black and white. Here's the lease. Here's the rent ledger, blah, blah, blah. The judges, if I didn't have an attorney, many a times would say, sir, where's your operating agreement? How do I know you're Zach Ventures? And they'll say, you don't have the proper documentation. We're going to delay this court. And I said to myself, you got to be joking me. And then if I ever go in there with an attorney, 100% I won every time. First of all, it's not worth my time anymore to do it. I'd much rather pay the attorney. But it's interesting to see the judges, the change in their mentality, really like advocating for the people being evicted, which is black and white. And they'll even admit, yeah, I didn't pay, but you know, the air conditioning wasn't at 72 degrees. I clocked it at 73. Oh my gosh, let's give you some more time. What are you talking about? It's bizarre to have the judicial system as well, and these judges literally advocating for tenants. It's bizarre.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a scary world out there right now, but protect your assets, lock them up good. Don't allow, I mean, these guys are brilliant in terms of opening locks and breaking in and, you know.
Yeah, I think what it's doing is it's the damage it's causing is it's making entrepreneurship more and more difficult and less attractive. So we're raising a generation now that's like, why would I want to put up with that headache? Why would I go through that risk? Why would I own a property where a tenant can live in there and I can't get them out? Why would I do that?
Right.
And so you're deterring entrepreneurship, which is what this entire country is built on. It's the freedoms we enjoy are from entrepreneurship.
You're right.
The jobs everyone has are from, there's an entrepreneur at the end of the day that created that opportunity.
For sure. And instead of getting rewarded, we're getting financially
You're getting
hurt penalized and headaches instead of, you know,
we're starting to see now, I do a lot of wholesale regulation, like I follow it, and it's on the state by state level. And we're starting to see some legislation get introduced that's now against flipping.
Wow.
Which is really scary. So it hasn't passed, so I wasn't going to talk about it at all, but in Illinois,
this is a hot topic.
In Illinois, they're trying to pass a law where it's a deed restriction for 6 months to prevent quick flips. And the mindset is, oh, these shady investors are coming in, they're slapping some paint on it and they're reselling it and they're ripping off everybody. When it's like, well, maybe that's like 1%, but the market dictates, right? People get inspections like, what? Yeah. That's not happening. Not where it's an issue that we have to pass laws around. But in California, I don't know if you paid much attention, but California passed where your contractors have to be licensed and registered. And now you have to go through as a seller, as a flip, you have to go through this very extensive due diligence and then be held liable to things that happen in the future. So they put all this additional risk back on the investor. And look, I'm all for doing good work.
For sure.
But the problem here is the mindset is the flipper's the bad guy here.
Right.
Rather than he's providing new housing, he's taking dilapidated homes that nobody wants, that are vacant, fixing them up. You know what I mean? Like
stabilizing neighborhoods,
bringing everybody's values up,
like helping the contractors, bringing tax money into here. For sure, I get
materials, all the things. But that's not the way the world looks at it. The world looks at it and says, "You got in there, you hardly did anything, you didn't earn your money. You didn't earn your money. Right. Somehow you didn't earn your money." Like a wholesaler, you didn't earn your money. What are you talking about? I found a great deal. Of course I earned my money.
Yeah, and how long did that take you? No one knows that it took you 4 years to get that
rejection.
Deal. And what's the opportunity cost of your time for doing that? For
no one knows you talked to 1,000 people before you got that good deal. Right. So there's this idea that somehow if you're making money, you're the bad guy.
It's crazy. But
we have to overcome that.
New. So like back in the day, HUD houses had deed restrictions. So think about it.
FHA still does.
Exactly, 90 days. And I'm okay with that too, because by the time you stabilize something, I mean, I'm holding most of my stuff, but for other flippers, that hard money cost, again, when you need to think about it, the target market for the entry-level homes, 65%, 70% probably be an FHA loan with today's rates. So all of a sudden, you factor in, by the time you stabilize, 90 days, and then you can't take a contract, you're holding for 4 months before you start, because it's going to take at least 30 days to close from there.
I mean, that's where novations originally came from, was from the FHA anti-flip. I was doing novations before they even called it that.
Yeah.
Because what would happen is I'd buy this entry-level home for, $75,000. Yeah. I'd rehab it in 2 weeks, go in there with a crew, boom, because it's 1,000 square feet.
Sure.
I'd be back on the market, get an FHA buyer in a couple days.
And you have to say, sorry, let's wait 2 more months to start that contract. So let's just keep it on the side and do nothing. You're like, I just screwed myself.
Yeah. But a lot of times, you're in the deal 90 days anyway, because if you're doing any type of normal rehab, like a normal size home, it's going to take you a minute. But,
right. But that's a great point.
But you're right. FHA has a 90-day anti-flipping rule to prevent people from just buying it and selling it and making a quick buck.
Yeah. Really interesting.
So we'll see.
I mean, think about, and if it starts in one state in Chicago, it's going to be national.
Well, you see, it's like this idea around taxing the rich. It's the same philosophy. Like, let's raise the highest tax bracket from 37 to 48 or whatever they're proposing right now. And the idea there is like, okay, somehow people that aren't making a lot of money get to pay a whole lot less, and people that are making a lot more money have to pay a whole lot more.
Right.
Because why? Because you somehow have more money, so you should pay more.
Right.
When in reality, you're taking all the risk, you're providing all the jobs.
You're not sleeping.
Yeah, you're next on the line. You're personally guaranteeing everything you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, dude,
and
are
a
you
lot
kidding?
of those people are just gonna, at a certain point, you're just saying, it's not even worth
it.
Right. We're done. So now where are you going to get the money from? We're just going to retire.
What's everyone going to do when no one's creating new jobs?
Right. Or investing domestically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wonder what this one will do. Oh, no, that doesn't feel very good. Okay. What do you think? Luigi thinks this is a bad move.
It's so smooth. It's no problem. But these guys build like $50 million homes. He's going to be very good at the game of Jenga. Let's be real. Far better than me.
I need to call my contractor. Hey, can we FaceTime? Which one should I
That's so funny, right? Jerry's got a structural engineer, by the way, on speed dial with an earpiece, which you don't see in his left ear.
All right. So next question. We all have our wins, but we learn a lot from our losses. Talk about your losses and what you've learned from them.
Oh man, I mean, I think that's me like summed up. I mean, I've been at it 20 years. I started in 04, 20 years. And honestly, like I was over at Eric and Tony's, doing a podcast over there. And they're like, well, what's your story? And I'm like, it's the most boring story ever. Like, it's not even worth talking about because all it is 20 years of falling down and getting back up. Like, that's it. It was no overnight success. It wasn't some rags to riches, very quickly. It was just, the one thing about me is I never take a mistake or a loss as something about me. I don't make it mean something about me. So then I'm able to just quickly rebound, learn what I need to learn, get back up on the horse and just keep going. And so many people make the failure a person, not an event. And really, it's just an event. It's just happened. Yeah. And what can you learn from it? And what can you do to just move forward again? And it's kind of like that Rocky, like I make my kids watch Rocky because like what is so special about him is he just keeps getting knocked down and gets back up. And I think if you can do that in this business, then you're going to do just fine. You're going to take the lumps and you're going to get right back up and keep learning from it and keep going.
I love that. I agree. It's like, I'm 22 years, 2 decades in 2 years. Nothing sexy about there's nothing special about me. I'll be the first one to say I'm not some brilliant fucking guy. I roll up my sleeves. I'm a simple guy. I do the same thing routine every single day. It's a routine. It's a boring business to most. I love it, but I can live in the boredom and the monotony is fine with me. I'm comfortable. But I would say my biggest loss, or you talk about, it's about the resilience and the turnaround from learning from that experience. My worst business decision I ever made was investing close to 7 figures in a investor that invested in me early on in OPM. And I reinvested that money with them because we had this great working relationship where they would fund deals and I would buy a bunch of properties and we have an equitable split, made all this money in my early 20s. And then I reinvested that money, literally all of it back with them with a 10% yield. And what didn't I do?
Get any kind of lean on anything or what?
I didn't get any lean because we're making millions of dollars. Things are going good. I didn't even get a contract because I'm a Midwest guy.
It was a handshake.
It was a handshake. Zach, reinvest in our fund. We're doing some big stuff. We're building in Florida. We have 50 million plus net worth. I took them at their word because they'd wire me millions of dollars in a week, no problem. So dumb, but it was the greatest. The takeaway from that is I lost all that money. I said to myself, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to do exactly what I do every day. I'm going to wake up when you wake up with the broke mentality every day and it's like you don't have the fish, you go fishing, you do what you're good at. You're resilient. And the most important thing, when I went on to then raise my own money outside of them, we severed, of course, the relationship was tarnished after I lost all that money because they got over levered and greedy, which kills people. I took the loss. And then when I looked at another investor, I said, I've been in your shoes. I understand what you're asking me to do, which is deploy your money. And here's the protections and the measures I'm putting in place to ensure you don't lose 7 figures or 50,000 or whatever you're investing, because I understand where you're coming from. I want to make sure what happened to me wouldn't happen to you. And I'm much smarter. So I can empathize with you. I know what's important. I'm going to make damn sure that even if I lost 1 penny, you're going to get paid in full.
Yeah, I look at it like I call it risk tolerance. And I think your success is in direct correlation to your risk tolerance. And when I say risk tolerance, risk is the fear that something bad might happen. And risk tolerance is your ability to sit in that and manage that anxiety. Because let's face it, you and I wake up and there's anxiety. Like there's no way around it. We own a lot of properties. There's a lot of money in deals and things like that. But the difference is you're able to manage that anxiety. Sure. You can function. You can make decisions. It doesn't lock you down. It doesn't prevent you from doing the thing that needs done. You're not sitting at home crying when that happened. You just jumped right back up and got back at it.
I may have cried for a day or two. Yeah,
for sure. But you got back up. But that's a high level of risk tolerance. And if you want to grow in life, especially financially, if you're at a 1, you got to put yourself in a 2 level. Sit in that anxiety. It's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be out of your comfort zone. But if you sit there long enough and you handle it, it gets normalized, and you can go to a 3. Once that's normal, you can go to a 4. And that's what I've done, and that's what you've done for 20 years. Is just been able to slowly increase that ability to manage risk.
And I love when you say, don't go from a 1 to a 9.
Oh, it'll knock you out.
Right. Yeah. Go from a 1 to a 2 to a 3. And then it becomes normalized and more comfortable, but never get to the point what I'll say over levered. So I'm always a contingency guy to say, if this, and this happens, what would transpire? This whole thing's going to knock down, and I don't want that to transpire. That's why you go from a 10% increments of discomfort to then get comfortable in that discomfort.
Yeah. I mean, I look at like when I went from Detroit, like literally $5,000 and $10,000 houses up to multi-million-dollar projects. But over a many years, and it was like
happen overnight.
No, it was like I went from a $300,000 house to a $400,000 house. I remember I eventually got to $1 million price point, and I hung out there for a while because like it was great. I was making a couple $100,000 flipping $1 million home, and I was so scared to move up out of that. And when I went to 3 million, I moved to Phoenix, went to 3 million. The first one I did, I lost 200,000. The second one I did, I broke even. The third one I did, I made $1 million over like 5 years of playing in that new area. But it was out of my comfort zone. There were things I didn't quite know. I spent way too much on the landscaping, whatever. But I'm learning, and I'm in a bit of uncomfortable. I didn't risk it all because I got other things going on.
Correct.
I strategically took on more risk, very carefully and strategically. And when I took my lumps, it didn't knock me out. I could absorb them.
Yeah.
Like I remember last time I saw you, you were like, okay, I got to go. I had a house burned down. I'm like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I got a house that just burned down. But for you, it was like just one more problem in the day to solve.
Correct.
It wasn't.
You can't let, again,
debilitate you.
It's calculated risk. If you're well diversified and you've got a lot of eggs in multiple baskets, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, strategic planning, calculated risk. My question is, so you said the first one you lost 200, the next one you broke even. Most people playing in $1 million range, what made you step up and say, all right, now I'm really going to get this one right, and you made $1 million on the third? How did you get past that second one when you're like, geez, I kind of went 0 for 2, and you're still sitting there waiting for that pitch? What made you stay in the game?
Well, when I lost the $200,000, I was like, okay, what didn't work? Okay, I was in this thing way too long. And where did I go wrong? Where did I spend the money I shouldn't have spent? And so I'm just learning. Second time around, I got a little better.
Yeah.
And by the way, the whole time I'm like watching competition, seeing what they're doing.
Love that.
And I'm just figuring out like, okay, well, what should I be paying for this? And should I do the closets or not do the closet? Should I put the blinds in, or will the buyer not care anyway?
Beautiful.
I'm just trying to figure it out. But the point is like I'm in there and I'm willing to take that risk and sit in that anxiety till I figure it out.
Yeah. I do similar stuff where I'm obsessive compulsive about every deal. So I will buy your $1 million deal is still my $200,000. On my $200,000 deals, I say to myself, I have single pane windows here. Am I going to retain this asset? What did the competition do? I'm pulling up every home within 2 miles.
Yeah.
How fast did this one sell? This one did do dual pane windows. Why am I doing dual pane windows? This one did this. This one did that. So I'm taking and aggregating all the data to compulsive, obsessive level, and then making the strategic decision.
Yeah.
I always say, every dollar invested, if I'm not making $1.01, then I'm not doing it. Or I'm happy to make a break even on the dollar because I know it's going to sell faster, which in essence will save me money because the opportunity cost of sedentary capital is sitting there. So if I can move it for dollar in, but quickly recoup that dollar and make it on the back end, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Because speed is important.
I did this deal in this flip in Puerto Rico, and it was bought it for 500, put 100 into it, sold it for 800. But during the rehab, and we did the rehab in like 30 days, we did all new windows.
Yeah.
And this is in my neighborhood, so I got to like go see this one, right? And I go out there, and the window guys are putting the windows in, and the windows are frosted.
Oh.
Like all the windows.
Oh my God.
And I lost it. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And he goes, what are you talking about? This is what we do. And I'm like, why would we put frosted windows? And he's like, come with me. And we walk down the street, and it's a subdivision, so all the houses are the same.
Everybody has frosted.
Everybody has frosted windows. He's like, that's new windows, that's new windows, that's new windows, that's new windows. And I'm like, okay, they were doing frosted windows. I don't get it, but that's the market.
But why, but you're right. But why? Don't you have great views? I mean, it depends on views or whatever.
This wasn't a view. It was, I mean, the ocean's right there, but this was a 50-foot lots tight. Yeah. And what I learned was when they're in those homes, it's so hot and they don't want shades. And the frost just keeps the sun, just makes it more efficient.
Got it.
And people don't want people looking in their windows. And I mean, I don't get it. I'd want to look out my windows.
Right.
But
of course, you got to do what's conforming. We don't know. And the thing is
matter
really
what you
important.
want.
It doesn't matter at all. I think it's so where people make a lot of mistakes is we get so hyper focused on what we want and what we'd like. It's so important. Our guys know far more than us. They're in the construction every day, and I speak to my guys, and you want to give them autonomy and influence to have impact on the projects. What would you? I would say, Carlos, Noe, whoever, Jose.
How would you do this?
What would you do if this was your home and you're building this? I always love the question. What would you do? And I listen and I say, proceed. Proceed. Okay. Yeah. You're smarter than me.
I did this flip once with this, and I always get the agent's feedback that's going to list because they're the experts. Yeah. And they said, okay, this is in Bloomfield Hills.
That's right. Yeah.
And this area was a high Middle Eastern population. Yeah. And so the agent's like, this is exactly how you need to design and rehab this house. Yep. And I hated every bit of it. Sure. I hated everything we picked out. Oh yeah, all
pillars,
of it. Shag carpet, all this weird stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so bad. And but I trusted the agent, and we sold it instantly to a Middle Eastern buyer, and it was exactly what they wanted. Like, but I'm not living there.
Correct. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, build it to the buyer.
Yep. Understand the market and respect the local feedback and the niche and the needs of the people.
I was gonna pick that one too.
Were you? I've been eyeing it. Yeah. You guys made this one pretty easy for us. Okay.
All right. This one goes with what you guys were talking about, so it's a good transition. Every contract, business, and produce has fine print that most people don't pay attention to. What is the fine print that most people miss on a daily basis when dealing with real estate?
You're in contracts, so I'll let you
details,
start.
The details. The details on a contract? Is that what it was?
Details
or just
contract or just in
so the fine print on a contract, like buyer beware, certain things that we've probably experienced that have affected a transaction positively or negatively?
I mean, I certainly think that you need to really understand how to create a contract that is going to allow you to do the things that you want to do, right? So like if you're wholesaling, you better make sure that contract is wholesaler friendly. You have control over the title company, you have control over access to the property, things like that. So I think that's important, like really understand what it is you're transacting. But I actually think this is a kind of a dangerous question because the analytical people are going to grab onto this and really overlatch onto it. And this is a problem I see that's very pervasive in the industry is people think they need to know all 10 steps before they'll take step one. And the reality is just worry about step one and get step one done and then go to step two, because you're going to learn as you go way better than if you think you need to know everything or you wait until you know everything to take any action. So I kind of feel like for most people, the details aren't what's important to you right now. It's just picking up the phone or, swallowing that frog. Like, what's the big thing that you're afraid of doing? And go do that thing, and you'll figure out all those little nuances along the way.
I love that.
It's probably not the answer you're looking for.
No, I think that's really interesting. I love your perspective. It's your 10% rule, like in the discomfort. Like, just don't worry about step 10 and getting super uncomfortable. Just start and get a little uncomfortable, right?
Well,
Same
it's like analysis. Like when you go to look at a deal, I can promise you guys, Zach is not spending an hour comping the property. He's not getting all his contractors out there to give him hard bids, right? You're walking the property, you're getting your head around what's going on. You're very quickly getting to at least a ballpark number. Because if I don't even get to a ballpark, if we're not even in the same ballpark, why would I waste my time with analysis?
For sure.
And so I tell people, just anchor low, see if there's motivation. If they get anywhere remotely close to where you're at, then do some further analysis. Then look at comps and figure out repairs. But dude, you're spending way too much time analyzing the deal
and
just to find out there's no deal.
Right, that's so funny.
It's the biggest waste of time ever.
That's so funny. It's very true. And I know right away, I know within 2 seconds, literally, the area of the address, okay, right away within 2 seconds, litmus test, does this going to potentially work? Yes. Okay, now I'm going to spend a little time looking at it or drive it. However, reverting back to the micro details of your question, I will say there's times, it's so funny. contractor, the Zach, oh, I send you this property. I sent you over the assignment. Now I think one of the biggest mistakes people do is we're on our phones, we're super busy. We're making $250,000, a third of a million, a $500,000 decision. I'm just going to docu-sign this thing when I sent you the thing. Now, all wholesalers, many of them use different wholesale legalese and language. Yeah. So a couple things when you talk about bold information you should be aware of if you're a buyer or you're the wholesaler. Make sure that, the buyer's earnest money, if they're committing to the deal, is fully non-refundable, except for seller default. So, for example, if all of a sudden there's a title cloud and you think you're going to keep my money and you don't have the verbiage that says subject to, clear title and
warranty deed,
warranty deed, stuff like that.
And make sure that earnest money gets into escrow.
Totally. All of that.
How many times have you done that? I've done that where I forgot to double check and they never even sent it in.
That would be the word, and they've tied you up, and then all of a sudden you're forced to close, and it's your reputation. So there's little nuances. Yeah. Other things is on the contract it says seller post possession, and it's I thought it said like a week, and all of a sudden it's 70 days for because I'm quickly looking at the DocuSign. So I'd say when you have hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line, and even when we first starting, you're a veteran, we make quick mistakes because we're just trust these people. Slow it down, read
Zach,
this stuff. Yeah.
Are you more of a visionary or an integrator?
I'd say probably more of a visionary.
I would say that too. Yeah, I am too. So then what that means is it means you details probably get lost a little bit. So what that means for me anyway, because I'm that way too, I want to stay high level all the time, is I've got to have an integrator that's making sure all that stuff's getting done correctly. So if you don't know what that means, there's a book called Rocket Fuel, Gino Wickman, I think, and it talks about the difference between the visionary and the integrator. And basically the book says all successful businesses have both. Because someone's got to be big idea, creating all the new things, and then someone's got to come in and clean that mess up behind them.
Yep.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be partnerships, but like you really need a good integrator. So like when I look at my education business, my integrator that runs the whole company, he is over the top
with details,
analytical. We know to the T what's going on, the metrics, the KPIs, all of it.
Yep.
And I get a detailed report, and he's pouring over these numbers, and we know exactly what return we should get if we send this email and we do this ad or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because that's his job, right? And then I get to be, doing a podcast with you rather than looking at a spreadsheet.
I love that. Yeah.
But the details aren't getting lost, for a good business to run well.
And that's probably, one of my inefficiencies. Great point, because I'm always I'm high level, but I also focus on the finite details. And sure, I've super quick. Zach sent the thing. I'm in my car looking at the next deal. Did you get the contract back? Sure did, you idiot. You just signed $20,000 non-refundable earnest money. The seller has post possession for 3 months, and okay, that just cost me $7,000. Good thing I got this thing low, and slow down the next time. So I would just say for people, make sure you read, especially if it's a new wholesale or a new relationship, understand their contract, and make sure that, no one's being taken advantage of, especially yourself, and that it's fair and it's, mutually beneficial for all parties. I'll never do a deal where it's a zero-sum game. If there's a loser, I'm out. A perfect example is one of my tenants, who's a wholesaler, calls me yesterday on a deal, and he says, Zach, I got this deal. I'm netting the seller.
Wait, your tenant is a wholesaler?
One of my tenants. So I have a lot of relationships. So a lot of them say, hey, I need a property. I said, no problem. I know you're doing good because I just paid you an $80,000 assignment fee or something.
Yeah, you can make your rent.
So I know you can. You want to prepay that 6 months. But it's about ethics and morale and all that. And he calls and said, I did a net to seller. It's a pre-foreclosure, and the seller's going to net $70,000. I said, I don't care what the seller's netting or whatever, but just give me the details. Why are you calling? What's your question? He says, well, the seller's daughter will not allow me to proceed on the contract. She's telling me, we're not signing any documents. This is ridiculous. I said, well, give me more details. He says, I'm buying the house. I said, what does the seller owe? He says, the seller owes $150. I said, and you're netting the seller $70? He says, yeah. I said, okay, let me do a quick comp. I said, dude, this house is worth $475. This is absurd. You are literally stealing the house. Well, tell me about the details of the seller. He says, seller's about 70-some years old. I said, bro, cancel the contract immediately. Number one, I would never buy a deal like that because the seller's really getting hurt. You're taking advantage of a situation. They're elderly. Bro, I'll call the attorney general on you myself because that's ridiculous. Like when I see something like that, you immediately divert and you take action to unwind the deal. I said, you need to call them and say, I didn't know what the payoff is. Take responsibility and either A, offer them $100,000 more minimum, and or B, just walk away from the contract because that's absurd. Yeah. So ethics have to always come into play. I won't do a deal where I see someone's getting hurt. I'll be the first one to say, I want nothing to do with this, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, a transaction should be a win all the way around. Yes. Now, it may mean you're getting a great deal, but it better be solving a problem.
Correct. Absolutely. And a fair deal, right? Like somebody understands. I always would say, hey, I always believe if you put the home on the MLS, you'd make more money, but are you willing to take this little aspirin for the pain? And I'm hoping to make 10%, and I show you the numbers and you sign off on that. I gave you full disclosure and you're comfortable with that. And if you're not sound mind, I'm not going to do a deal until you have a representative that can further represent you independently to make sure you're making a good
And
deal.
even if it is a fair deal and they're elderly, get an heir, get one of the kids, get somebody.
Absolutely. An attorney, a real estate
third party.
expert. Yes. Independent.
Independent.
Yeah, that's not your friend.
So you don't get accused of taking advantage of the
Correct.
elderly. That's the biggest thing that will take you down.
For sure.
Because no matter what, you're going to look like the douchebag.
No matter what.
Even if they are of sound mind, they're elderly.
Yep.
They get a
that's it.
pass.
My litmus test is this. Imagine that person is your mom or your dad, and how would you feel?
Yeah, or your
And then all of
grandma,
a sudden you
yeah.
say, oh my God, like it's a very simple thing. Unless you hate your parents, you're gonna say, I feel very good. Most people are gonna say, you're right. It's a general litmus test. Treat it as if you would your family, and would that make sense to them? And then there's your answer.
I should have been strategizing just now. What's this bottom? Dude, there we go. Oh man.
Well, that's a good one.
Come on, baby. If I can just
This is
make
a
it
microcosm of Jerry's remodels. He's very calculated.
this thing's not going to last in Florida right now.
Oh no, the wind just took that down. Do you own any properties in Florida?
I actively wholesale and flip in 2 Florida markets, but we don't hold a whole lot there.
So are you picking up some stuff from the hurricane stuff right now?
You know, we're
Interesting.
I mean, the approach I'm taking, maybe this goes back to that last question. The approach I'm taking is with my guys on the ground is we have to be very sensitive right now, and we have to be solving problems because there's people that are have property there without insurance, you know, and then there's people that have insurance and they're just going to take the check and don't want the house.
Correct. Yeah.
So just let's do our thing. You know, we're looking for opportunity, but we have to be very, very empathetic towards people's situation because you have people that have lost homes and everything they own, and so I always want to be a solution, not taking advantage.
For sure.
So
That's
we're just taking that approach is all.
good for you. Yep. Taking the high ground, staying above water.
Because we're in one of my markets is the Gulf Coast, so they got hit. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
Dang.
Okay.
All right. So next question. This is actually 2 questions, but I'll tie it into one. How are you capitalizing on decrease of interest rates, and how is the real estate market doing in the next 12 months?
Oh, that just came in from the live. See, people think like that came in from Connor, I believe, from the Instagram post before.
Do you think there's pent up demand that's gonna pop when the rate comes down low enough?
maybe a little bit?
Yeah.
I'm not like, listen, I'm cautiously optimistic about our markets as always. I don't feel like there's this combustion waiting to blow out. I feel like people have been anticipating this for a while, but there's a lot of people that still needs to sell. It's not like all these people are just renting and they've been waiting for this rate to kick in and all of a sudden there's all this demand and no supply. I think we're in a somewhat healthy market right now. I think it's somewhat of a balanced market. Rates have already been priced in. People can anticipate what's most likely going to transpire over the next couple months to the year. I think it's going to be a healthy market specific to Arizona because, again, you're a national guy, so I'm curious your perspective nationally. But for me, it's business as usual. The rate cut for me helps me on my lines of credit. It doesn't help on anything else because it's fixed rate debt. There could be opportunities for refi, but a lot of my stuff was,
Financed
fixed,
good.
4 or 5 years ago. So they're still too far apart to even plan on a refi. So it helps me on my line of credit. Yes.
Here's my answer to that, because I'm getting this question a lot right now, is why are you asking this question? Are you asking this question because you're trying to time the market? And if that's the case, then that's a bad idea.
Well, timing any market is almost impossible.
I mean, that's what happened during COVID, where a lot of people got hurt when the correction happened, is because what was happening before, and if this is why you're asking this, is during COVID, you could be a complete moron and make money because you buy it today and it's worth 50 grand more in 6 months. And so you could not follow any sound business practices and still make money.
Yep.
Whereas normally those people would lose money and be out of the game. And now they're staying in the game.
Right.
So it was a weird time. But like, I look at it and I say, okay, if I buy a property and I'm going to fix it up and I'm going to bring it back to market in 4 or 5 or 6 months, am I trying to use interest rates to speculate some kind of appreciation? And I just wouldn't do that. I'd be buying today at a good deal. If I'm worried about it a little bit, I got to buy a little deeper. If I'm uncertain about what's going to happen, I'll buy a little bit deeper. If I think it's going to be great, I buy deep. I just know if I buy deep and I get a good deal, I'm going to be okay whether the interest rate's 5 or 5.5 or whatever it's doing. I don't really care.
1,000%. And
I don't get hung up on it.
I've never been hung because I would take the strategy, and my track record speaks for itself. If you look at my times of acquisitions and dates, it's always been the same consistency. Dollar cost average. I can never time anything. The greats, the Peter Lynch's and the Warren Buffett say, you know, of course you want to buy at the bottom, sell at the top, but it's most important to get a good chunk in the middle. And by diversifying and dollar cost averaging across multiple homes in different times, right? If someone gave you $10 million tomorrow, you're not going to take $10 million and put it in the market tomorrow. You're going to delay penetrating that market over multiple months so that you get that market diversification and timing. Same thing with equities, real estate, whatever it is. So exactly, equity trumps everything else. If you buy the thing deep enough, you can always pivot and adapt to whatever's going on.
When COVID was going on and I was watching flippers buying at 80, 82, 85.
Yeah.
In Phoenix, they still buy really. I mean, Phoenix is a messed up market because there's just so much, I don't know, it's like flippers capital of the world here. But in a lot of markets, sound business practice is to be at 70 to 75% of after repair value, right? You want to be all in at 70 to 75% is a pretty safe place to be. Okay, so I follow 70 because I just want to make sure I've got meat on the bone. I want to win. When COVID was happening and I knew there was appreciation that was just free appreciation, I still was buying at 70%. I did not go out of formula and count on that appreciation because I didn't know if and how long it was going to last, and I didn't want to buy speculating. So and I lost out on a lot of deals that way probably. Now then my deals ended up being big wins, but when the market did correct and all these flippers are losing money because they're stuck in deals they can't sell, I was okay. I did fine. I got right through it and I was okay. I mean, I had a couple deals that hurt me a little bit, but I didn't lose $1 million or 500,000. I didn't have 20 flips that I couldn't sell.
I love it. Because you're
Because
also
I bought right.
greedy and you exercise extreme discipline. A lot of people,
I was
they get
disciplined
excited,
about my number.
and then all of a sudden they make a modification. It's like you're playing at the casino and you're winning. You're like, well, it's not really my money, it's the casino money. So I'm going to jeopardize, I'm going to take more risk. I'm going to start playing at craps. I'm going to play the hard ways. I'm going to do these normal bets that if I just started playing at that table and I didn't know if it was hot or cold, I'm going to be very disciplined. I'm just going to maximize my pass line bet instead of playing the hard ways, which gives you, the odds are terrible, but you just get over exuberant and emotional. So you eliminate emotions, you exercise discipline, no matter what the market is, and expect nothing. And you're going to be okay.
But I wholesaled to those knuckleheads. Like I was wholesaling to the hedge funds at 100 cents on the dollar.
Like, sure. I sold a lot to the hedge funds at 100 cents. I said, I don't know what these guys are doing.
I know what you're doing.
Harvard and Wharton and all these smart guys and the Robert Wensleys out there. I said, I'll sell to you at 100 and 105%. I'll go buy back at 75. Because you want to know what? You're never going to go broke taking a good profit.
You're never going to go wrong if you buy right. It's all about buying right. So that guy whoever's asking the question, like, what's interest rates going to do and all that, I mean, that's helpful a little bit, but I think you're getting hung up on something that's really not that.
Great point. Just stick to your business strategy. Do what's working today. It's going to be working tomorrow, and be disciplined. We're running out of these middle ones, all the good stuff.
All the easy ones
I see
are
one
gone.
in here. I see this one. Ooh, that that's how you tap it.
Yeah.
It's like the Happy Gilmore when he's putting, just tap, tap, tap.
Uh-oh.
Ooh. Tap, tap, tap. Ooh, daddy. All right. I don't know why people are enamored by Jenga, but it's interesting. Okay.
All right. I'm going to save the best for last, but this question is something that was come up. What is the one thing you have practiced every day in your business that has the most impact in your business? And what is that you can teach to somebody else?
Well, I'm heavy into wholesaling. So I would say probably like I'm 70-30, 70 wholesaling, 30% flip and longer term projects, right? And I just know that if my team, if my operators, if my business isn't making offers every single day, then we're gonna run into a drought. Our pipeline's not gonna stay full. So I just have this undying belief that if you're in an acquisition style business like that, you've got to be making offers every single day. And if you're having quality conversations and you're putting numbers in front of sellers and agents every single day, you will never not have deals. You will never not have deal flow. You'll always have opportunities in this business. And so to me, that's a faucet you turn on that you just never turn off, no matter what. And if you can't do it, you better have somebody that can, because otherwise you're going to get messed up and you're going to have these big spells. And I've done it. I've done the roller coaster where no deals, no money coming in. I got flips that I'm dying to close because I got, my wife's like, can I go to Costco? No, why don't you wait till Friday? Like I've had those days.
Your Costco bill with 10
And that ain't
kids,
cheap.
what's your bill? $1,000.
$1,500.
$1,500 a week.
A week. And that's just Costco.
So I'm going to put
not
the
counting
link for the
Sam's.
GoFundMe for Jerry's Costco bills.
Thank you.
GoFundMe link right here.
We
to
we do
support.
the Costco where they give you like once a year they send us the 5% back check.
And you get $1 million
It's a freaking
back?
big check.
I'm sure. That's insane. My Costco bill's like $200, and I go once a month. It's
Shampoo
amazing.
for a
Literally,
year.
it's crazy. Okay, so yours is the consistent faucet with the consistent offers to ensure that you always have opportunities for crews and cash flow coming in and moving. I love it.
Yeah.
I would say that my consistent thing, I would say, kind of reiterating the discipline aspect is not getting distracted by outside. Every time it's business, someone drives by, oh, why aren't you in commercial? Why aren't you in multifamily? Staying to my
Shiny object.
discipline, the shiny object syndrome with what I'm doing, staying with single family. I know it's not
Like that.
sexy for a lot of people. And everyone's like, oh, you're a small guy, you do one house. I don't care what you think of me. The single family home game is, I think, one of the greatest businesses out there. I've stuck to it. I've not diverted from my operation. I haven't got involved in this crazy multifamily or land development and all this crazy stuff, and focused on that. And the other thing, I think one of my secret weapons is maybe my energy. Engaging with other people, right? People say, oh, you're always in one speed or whatever. Well, there's times where I get worn out, of course. But I think that by working out every day and keeping my energy calm and collective and not getting emotional over stuff, there's no really emotion in deals. It's black, it's white. But when you're interfacing with a lot of problems, it's keeping a calm mindset. So I think for me, the gym, the health, getting that stuff out, you always get worked up, and we talk about stress levels from 1 to 10. I've been at 10 before, of course, and you just get comfortable in it. But it helps when you have a healthier mindset by releasing the stress of the gym or whatever works for you to always be calm, even in times of adversity, especially like you get irate tenants, people being evicted, and they're screaming at you, whatever. And it's like, listen, I still love you as a person. This is just business. I got to support and pay bills. I tell people, I'm not even mad at you. I don't even know what transpired in your life, and I'm happy to listen. I'm happy to talk to you face to face, but I'm not going to elevate something. So it's staying calm in the discipline of the domain of what we're trading in single family homes, and the discipline to not get cantankerous and irascible when engaging with people that are volatile, because there's no point to escalate a fire that's already burning. I want to try and bring it down.
I like that. I really like that, because in real estate, there's probably dozens or hundreds of ways to make money. And I see so many people that run around trying to do this, trying to do that, and they end up doing all these things not good at all. Right. Instead of just hyper focusing on one thing, get that really dialed in. Once it's working really well, I'm fine if you do something else, but like get the thing working really well, stay in your lane and get good at something.
Yeah.
You
said
go
it right at the
around.
beginning. You said, Zach, in 20 years, people asked me, said it's boring. I'll tell you the same thing. It's boring. It's monotonous.
Houses.
But it's exciting for us. We've just fine-tuned it. We've adapted and pivoted in what we do best. It's nothing super exciting. People come around, they're like, this is all you do? This is all we do.
Yeah.
It ain't rocket science.
But you know what? I do get a real dopamine rush from like doing deals. Like
Of course.
I'm like a drug. It's like a
Same
crackhead
thing.
for
Same.
it.
I told Eric this morning, I said, I know you come from your drug past, whatever. I know addiction, and there's addiction in all forms. I'm addicted to deals. So are you.
Yeah, it's like in your blood.
Yes.
One day I want to stop it all and just be a farmer.
Is that really your goal?
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
And that way your
but I
Costco
gotta
bills can go
detox.
from 1,500 to 100 when you're cultivating
I told
your
my
own
wife
stuff.
when the day happens, we're gonna have to like go to Europe for a year or something. Like I can't be hanging around Zach.
There
I'll
you
just
go.
go start doing deals again.
So funny. But you said you don't like neighbors. You got to get away from
I got to get away from Pace
There
and
go.
you and
Yeah.
guys that are like doing big things,
There
because
you go.
I'll never get away from it. I'll sell something and I'll just go do it again.
I know. It's in the blood. I can see the veins pulsing right now. I was thinking about his next $20 million flip with your brother.
I told Tony, I said, we were talking about my first deal. Maybe it was Eric, I forget. But my first deal was a $6,000 wholesale deal 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that dopamine, that high, I've been chasing that ever since. You know what I mean? Like,
Of course.
when that happened, I was like, how do I ever get away from this now?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember my first deal on Rozier, $65,000. I remember there was a squatter coincidentally in there, and I'm like, I think I like this one. Squatter, there's a guy's doing a fire inside the house. this looks like a good opportunity for 65 grand. Sold it for, I'll never forget that deal.
And it's that proof of concept, and once it's in your blood,
It was like,
you can't get enough.
Deals, instead of the shots, deals.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Can't do the top.
It ain't going down.
This one I saw you trying, but that one ain't going anywhere. Oh, here we go. Yeah, you guys thought you could outsmart us, didn't you?
Yes, we did. All right.
See, it's boring. There's no action here.
But you know
just
what?
Zach and Jerry making
If you
strategic
keep it
moves.
boring, then it's stable. Just think about it. Look at the stability of this. It's boring. It's
If you
nothing
look at
sexy.
what we've done, we've strategically kept the sides pretty firm and just took out the middles.
This is true. All right, you can take out your earpiece now from the structural engineer.
Okay, best for last. So, knowing that Gen Z and millennials are having trouble entering real estate, whether they buy their first home or get into fix and flip, if you were talking to your kids right now, what advice would you give them if they had to start from nothing?
Well, they do, because I'm not giving them anything. We have a philosophy. I don't know. Do you have kids?
No.
Okay.
I have 2 dogs, so technically, yes.
That
2
doesn't
boys.
count, Zach.
Okay. I mean, I treat them like my kids.
know.
Different than your 10,
Your
but
fur
it's
baby.
all relative. I got my fur babies, but go ahead. You got more experience in the parental stuff.
So we told all our kids that they get nothing from mom and dad. Like, we're not leaving you anything. So that they go make their own life.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is your kids waiting for you to pass it down, and they're 35 or 40 and they haven't made their own life. So
sure.
I tell them all, like, just go make your own life, and we're not giving you anything. And so they do have to work from the ground up. Like my oldest son, he wants to do real estate. I said, okay, I got a hotel in Puerto Rico. Why don't you go run that for a while? And he starts at the bottom. He's making beds. He's now
love that.
manager.
Good for you.
And he's working hard. He can't go anywhere because he's on call. Like, it's a hotel, right? So there's problems every minute. And I said to him, I said, dude, you gotta start in the bottom and work your way up. That's what I did. That's the only way that you'll value it. It's the only way that you'll learn what you need to learn.
For sure.
And I don't really care if you do real estate. Like I tell all my kids, I don't really care. But you do want to do what you love, because you're going to spend most of your life doing that thing. So it better be something you really love. And I would recommend you own it. Like, own the thing. Don't work for somebody.
For sure.
But find the thing you love and own it and do it at a high level. And that's how I think you can be happy in life. And so that's my big thing to them. But when it comes to housing, I mean, yeah, I read the other day that, what is it, in 2022, like the average income needed to be like 60,000 to buy a house. Now it's like 110,000 or something. It literally doubled.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, I worry about how my kids how are any kids gonna buy their first house with the affordability where it's at today? So yeah, I think it's a real concern. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of this affordability ideas, co-living, and all these things happening, because it's gonna be critical in the future. Because if you're not a high income earner, you're probably not gonna own a house at some point in time. At least out here, maybe in the Midwest, because like I come from the Midwest, and
Same as you.
dude, you can buy a nice house for $300,000
We
in
could be
Oklahoma
neighbors
City
back
or
in Detroit, and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we could be running that city.
And they're beautiful homes, brick,
Gorgeous.
you know,
I know.
archways with 8-inch trim,
Insane.
beautiful.
I know.
For $220.
Every time I walk through the neighborhood and I go home and visit, I'm like, look at the craftsmanship out
They
there. Is
built them to
insane.
last.
They
They're little
sure do.
tanks.
And they weather the weather differential from the cold to the heat. It's a different breed.
Yeah.
They build them much better in the Midwest than they do out here.
I mean, you saw Arizona overnight pop up into whatever. Like, I remember when in 08, when Buckeye overnight became a town, right? It was nothing. It was all spec. The whole town was a spec.
yeah.
But like, they popped those houses up. Those aren't houses. They're just like little,
Tents.
they're cookie cutter cardboard
know.
boxes, you know?
You could build those in your sleep.
But yeah, I think it's a concern. I mean, what do you think?
I think it's a concern for sure, but I think people, like you say, it's like I think the new generations, just by default, a lot of them are just a little bit lazier. They just feel like they're just not, I don't know. I was taught I grew up, middle class. Put in the work. We're not handing you anything. And part of it, the gratification of actually doing it yourself is so much greater. I remember I was traveling and working abroad in Australia, and I was like, I'm going to force myself to take the work. I was washing dishes, and I said, you're not quitting. I just want to know what it feels like to take the worst job, so there's empathy and understanding for people. When I started in construction, I said, how could I delegate or speak to a contractor if I've never scraped popcorn or, did demo and put on the mask? I go in these hoarder houses. Like, how can I understand what it feels like and then to communicate if I have never done it? So I think it's really important to, whatever you're passionate about, I don't care if it's real estate or if these are my kids I'm speaking to. In fact, we spoke to John Missler about it the other day. It's like, get a job, figure out what you're passionate about it, and figure out how to own it and make that into a business. You know, it's like my dad never said, hey, get into the law business. He had a big law firm and this and that. That was never my thing. I can barely read. I like to do stuff. I like to interface with people. I'm relationship based. And I think by default, you find your way through. But I'm blessed that I had good support system and socialized, understanding the importance of being an entrepreneur, but also critical life lessons like the ethics, the morals, the putting in the work, taking the internships, going to school. I know it sounds boring and monotonous, but like, education.
I love the Dirty Jobs guy, Mike Rowe. You know him?
Yeah.
He said that this younger generation's like, it's not my thing. I'm not passionate about it. And he's like, passionate? He's like, you don't find what you're passionate about. You do the thing and you bring your passion to it and do it well.
Yes.
That's what you do. Like, bring the passion to whatever job you get and be thankful you have a job, right?
Totally. You're blessed that you're making money, that you have a house over your head, that you have the ability to eat, right? Like, sometimes, we live in the bubble where we talk about, oh, you're building this 11,000 square foot. It's like the people at my gym, oh, what do you mean the economy's bad? Or you walk on the parking lot, there's all these fancy cars. It's like, let me tell you what's really going on in the economy. Like, let's bring this real. Let me tell you the struggles I have with tenants. And I think it just goes down to communication both ways. So even tenants that are struggling and the kids and all that, I think it's important for people that are making an earnest effort and really putting in the time. Even if that means, and I've taken some rent concessions actually a little bit recently to help people that have had issues paying because they've called, they've communicated, they've explained their problems, and there's ways to work that out. I can reduce that money off your security deposit. I don't want to get financially hurt, but in the same respect, I want to help you through whatever the hardship it is. So I think at the end of the day, just be transparent and honest about what's transpiring in your life. And I think where there's a will, there's a way. I think that, when rates come down, that 120 income can now be 80 again, and incomes will rise with inflation. And I think people, if they want a house bad enough, there's always opportunities, strategic financing. There's a million ways to create that, an equitable way of owning. Maybe you buy a fixer up or you come in there and you incrementally fix it up. So if you have that desire, I think that it's possible if you have, grit and determination and.
But you've got to make, you can't save your way or get raises to where you're going to outpace inflation or cost of living or any of that. You're just not. You've got to create a side hustle and turn that into a real hustle if you want to get ahead in life. I had my oldest son's married, and his wife, she said to me one time, she's like, I just don't want to have to think about making money. And I looked at her and I said, then you won't have any.
Right.
I'm like, you won't have any then.
Right.
Like, you have to think about it. Like, when you're done with your 9 to 5, you start your 6 to midnight. And you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about it, and you're laying in bed at night, and you're thinking about it, like, how else do you build it? How else do you create it? It has to be a huge priority if you want to get ahead in life, if you want to create something more than just ordinary or get by.
Right.
And I feel like God did not put me on this earth to be average or ordinary. I felt like I was meant to do big things. And I think most people are meant to do big things.
Yep.
And have an impact, not a little bit, but a big impact in a big way.
Yeah.
Which means I have to go out and make something special.
Yeah, I call that extraordinary. I see you as an extraordinary man. I've seen the impact you've had across nationally, and I mentioned your name, so it was like, that guy's amazing. You have an amazing impact, and that's your real legacy. The same thing, it's not about, you cannot save your way to wealth. You can't save your way really to home ownership. You need to figure out how to make your money work for you. It goes back to that original question of wholesaling. Okay, so you have a stack of cash. That stack of cash gets devalued every day if it's just sitting in cash. So how are you turning that stack of cash and letting it grow, and compound through solid investments? You need to be proactive and not reactive. You can't just wait for something to transpire. You have to make that shit happen. They don't just move themselves up here. We have to physically move these to get to the top. It's the same thing, building your way to wealth, one finger, one push, one investment at a time.
Mm-hmm. You have to do that. If you're not, and we're sort of preaching to the choir, because if somebody's watching this, they're in that mode. They're in that mindset of, how do I make something better out of my life and resources?
Yeah.
And that's the mindset you have to show up with every day, or because money just isn't going to happen to you.
It doesn't really grow on trees.
It's not just going to show up for you. You got to go make it happen.
Amazing conversation. Always a pleasure with you, buddy. At the square table.
Is this a tie?
Yes.
We'll call it a tie. Hey, we call that a win. It's not a zero-sum Jenga game, just like real estate. It's a win-win.
We both won here.
Great conversations. I'm
Awesome,
excited to
Zach.
see all your big projects, and just as excited to hear about the little projects.
Okay,
In fact, I always say that the little projects are more exciting and better than the big projects because that enables you to do the big stuff. That's the stuff that really
true.
pays the bills.
It's true because maybe you hit it out of the park, maybe you don't, but it's those consistent, normal size deals, the little wins that stack up. Yeah,
That
the boring
enables
stuff.
you to do the boring stuff. Enables you to
boring
do the
stuff.
exciting stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Love that.
Great seeing you, buddy. Appreciate your time.